One thing that really stuck with me about this film and about Mohammed's story, as I mentioned that DCIP has followed and has been connected with Mohammed for years now. And Mohammed is, one example of the impact of an Israeli soldier shooting one child and the impact of that single injury and how many years it has still been, how many surgeries he's undergone, the pain that still exists in his leg, the struggles that come with the amputation, and how more surgeries and more treatments will be required throughout the course of his life. And I'm thinking about the huge scale of children in Palestine and children in Gaza who have had a limb amputated just in the last year and a half in Gaza, and the lack of access to medical care that all of these children have, and just the scale of that impact and this lack of resources and the ongoing impacts and trauma from this genocide will literally last for generations. And so that's what I was thinking about when I was watching this film, is I think Mohammed's story is representative of one person's story, but there are so many stories like this, and so many children and young people and adults in Gaza will continue to face challenges with these really serious injuries for the rest of their lives. Please feel free to continue sharing your thoughts on the film in the chat. I think it's really good to share those thoughts in writing just after immediately watching the film. We're going to move into the discussion portion, and there are a few people here I'd like to introduce. First, we have Jen Marlowe, who is the founder of Donkeysaddle Projects. She's the director of this film. She's joining us from Washington State. We also have Fadi Abushammala, who is Palestinian from Gaza, and he has been very connected with Donkeysaddle Projects and has supported Mohammed throughout the course of his injury and struggles to get healthcare. And then we do have Mohammed himself here. We're very excited. At the end of the film mentioned that Mohammed was studying for his tawjihi, his matriculation exams. In Palestine, these exams are a really big deal. They last over a couple of weeks. They're very difficult exams. Students study very hard for them. And the completion of these exams is, really marks, the finishing of high school, a child's journey into sort of the next steps of their lives. Mohammed has been continuing his education virtually in Egypt, where he lives now. And just today, he finished the last day of his tawjihi exams. And he still made time to join us all on this call today. So this is a pretty big deal. And so I'd really love if folks, just for a moment, maybe you could turn on your cameras, give him a round of applause, say a word of congratulations in the chat. He has worked very hard to complete these exams, and I heard he just got a fresh haircut to celebrate and to join us on this screening today. Congratulations, Mohammed. We're very excited for you and very proud of you for finishing your exams today.
Miranda, do you think that Malik might be able to translate what you just said so Mohammed can?
Yeah, so the other person I'll introduce here is Malik. She's with DCIP, and she's going to help translate for Mohammed.
Hi everyone. محمد سامعنا؟ وينك أنت؟
I'm gonna pin us to
أنا
the screen so
موجود.
it's
يلا
easier.
افتح كاميرا شوية وافتح كاميرا.
يمكن فهمت شو حكوا. حكت مرندا شوي عن التوجيهي، وأنك اليوم أنت آخر يوم خلصت امتحانات توجيهي وقاعدين بيحكوا لك
فينيش توجيه today.
أيوه، فالكل فتح كاميرات عشان يهنيك ويزكف لك وإن شاء الله العلامات الممتازة يا محمد. نستنى النتيجة طبعا. You can go ahead.
إن شاء الله إن شاء الله. كان آخر كان آخر امتحان اليوم وخلصت، يعني الواحد تريح شوي. قدم السنة هذه يعني رغم الصعوبات والظروف اللي شافها، بس الواحد ضل مستمر، ما فقد الأمل يعني. طالما فادوا وجين معايا ما بفقد الأمل طبعا. استمريت رغم الظروف اللي عشتها فقدت كثير من أبناء عمومتي في فترة التوجيهي، ولكن ما يئستش. كملت. اليوم خلصت امتحانات إن شاء الله، حسبت إن شاء الله معدل عالي.
إن شاء الله إن شاء الله،
وربنا
برافو
يوفق.
عليك يا محمد. خليني أترجم لهم. So Muhammad is happy because finally he finished the exams, and I'm sure that Miranda just mentioned how stressful these exams for us as Palestinians everywhere. And what he was saying that also, despite the situation that he's suffering from, otherwise far away from his family and his beloved ones in Gaza, and suffering with his injury and amputation, etc. But he was committed to continue his studies and his exams, and he's expecting a high score.
That
So
was going to be my next question. Yeah.
no, he's expecting a high score. So we're waiting the result, inshallah, soon.
Thanks, Malik. My next question for Mohamad is, what has it been like to continue your education in Egypt and prepare for the Tawjihi there?
محمد لساتك معانا صح؟
أنا معك. بس أنا بحاول.
قول.
أنا بفتح كاميرا دقيقة.
طيب بدك وقت كتير عشان نعطيك ولا بس مجرد ثواني؟ So he's trying to turn off the camera, so should we proceed or just give him a couple of minutes?
Malak, it's important to mention that there is a fire happened to the communication central in Cairo yesterday, and that's impacted to the speed of the internet in Egypt. So that's why Mohammed is suffering to call it on video. He's trying his best to be linked with that in video in a second. Otherwise, I would recommend him to keep like on a call rather than be in a video. I mean, I would encourage him to say like, oh, it's okay to be like not on camera regarding the internet speed in Cairo now. حماد مش مهم حبيب الكاميرا. انا مش مهم الكاميرا، مهم انك انت تاخذ السؤال، لان في عندنا تقريبا 100 من الحضور بيسمعوك. هذا اهم الكاميرا. الان لو شبكت الكاميرا اوكي، ما شبكت خلص عادي، خذ السؤال وجاوب بصوت.
بالضبط انا مع فادي. تمام. طيب بهالوقت خلينا نسألك هالسؤال وتجاوب عليه براحتك، وبلكي تظبط الكاميرا، إذا ما زبطتش كمان فيش مشكلة. سألتك ميرندا إنه كيف كانت رحلة الدراسة في مصر، دراستك التوجيهي في مصر، وشو الصعوبات اللي واجهتها بهاي السنة وأنت تدرس للتوجيهي في بعيد عن غزة وبعيد عن حبايبك.
طبعا يعني كانتش سنة سهلة بالمرة زي أي سنة يعني. قدمت أنا توجيهي قبل هيك، قبل الحرب، وصارت الحرب واضطريت إني أجله. عدت توجيه أنا يعني، وكانت صعبة كثير، ما كانت سهلة.
تمام.
فواجهت صعوبات كثير من ناحية
أعطيني بس محمد، أعطيني بس شوي عشان أترجم، عشان كل شيء يكون واصل لهم. أوكي، هي شبك. أهلا. Hamad is on the screen, everyone, so if you would like to say hi. So what Muhammad is saying, and it's shocking for me, and I'm sure it's gonna be for you as well, is that Muhammad took the Tawjih exams in Gaza shortly before the war happens, but of course because of the collapse of education facilities and everything, the Tawjih didn't go on. So that's why he was first, because he's also was insisting to take the Tawjih exam. So he was forced to take it again outside Gaza in Egypt. محمد كمل إذا تحكي.
I think maybe he was saying that he started the Tawjihi year in Gaza, but he had just begun 12th grade. He hadn't taken the exams when October 7th happened. He had just begun 12th grade. He began the Tawjihi year. I think, when he was still in Gaza. Is that correct, Mohamad?
It's correct, Jen. It's correct, Jen.
Hey,
محمد لسه معنا؟
أنا سامعكم بسترجع.
كمل إذا في عندك إشي تحكي.
فقدمت السنة هذه، يعني بديت من شهر واحد. بديت بشهر واحد توجيهي، ويعني كانت المنهج ماشي نصه، وما كنت متفائل إن أنا أنجح ولا متفائل إن أقدم امتحانات أصلا. فحاولت أتهرب والله أكثر من مرة إنه ما أقدم توجيهي. فالدافع الوحيد اللي كان عليه لفادي، يعني فادي أرن عليه أقول له بديش أقدم، يقول لي لا هتقدم، هذا مستقبلك، ويعطيني شوية نصائح ويحفزني. كنت فقدت الأمل كثير، يعني إن مش هقدم ولا. فتسهلت معي الحمد لله، وختمت المنهج قبل الامتحانات بأسبوعين الحمد لله، وبدأت أراجع. وفي الفترة هذه فقدت يمكن 35 واحد من أولاد عمي في مجازر غزة. أحبطني شوي، بس ما في وقت للبكاء. أنا إيش بدي أبكي؟ أنا قدامه مستقبل، أنا قدام حياة. فاضطريت إني أكمل رغم الوجع والجروحات. إلا وقبل توجيهي بأسبوعين رحت على الدكتور وقال لي لازم عملية. فأنا اضطريت أجلها لبعد توجيهي، لأن أنا مضيت مشوار طويل ومش هقدر أعيد السنة كمان مرة. والحمد لله اليوم انتهيت من الامتحانات ومتفائل إن شاء الله كثير.
ممتاز. So Muhammad is speaking about the journey of his education and توجيه exams in Egypt, and he's saying it wasn't an easy journey. He started memorizing and studying for توجيهي at the beginning of this year. Otherwise, he was hopeless to continue and kind of depressed in the mid of all the news and his suffering that he's living in, because he's saying that around 35 beloved ones he lost during these months. That would make him, of course, sad and not courage to continue his education and life as normally. However, he used to call Fadi multiple times as kind of checkups, and Fadi was always encouraging him to continue his توجيهي despite everything is happening here and there, and to pursue everything that he wants to continue his education in Egypt. I think, Marinda, we are good maybe for the next question for Mohammed.
Yeah. Thank you, Malik. My next question is for Jen. So we mentioned that DCIP introduced Mohammed to Donkeysaddle and you shortly after his injury. Can you tell us what sort of what it was like to meet him for the first time, and what inspired you to make that first film about him in 2019?
Sure. So I was in Gaza in 2019. At that time, I was working on an article with an accompanying video about kids who need medical treatment. They need to leave Gaza to get their medical treatment, but they're prevented from leaving Gaza by the Israeli army. There was actually another kid who Fadi and I were connected to, named Abdullah, who has a lung disease. And we'd been connected already with Abdullah for several years. Abdullah had been getting permissions to get treatment in Tel Aviv, and all of a sudden those permissions from the army just stopped without any explanation. He started getting denied and was no longer able to continue his treatments. That was what prompted me to try to investigate as a journalist, like, this issue, because I realized it wasn't just Abdullah who was impacted. So I met with DCIP when I was in Gaza with Mohamad Abu Rukba, the field worker there, and Mohamad Abu Rukba told me about Mohamad Saleh in his case. And so originally Mohamad was one of the young people for this original article and video that I was doing, and that was for 972 magazine. In terms of what it was like to meet Mohamad, well, you see this young man now with a smile that is like 1,000-watt light bulb, right? So that was him as a 12-year-old, right? But in a 12-year-old body. He was just so exuded such love and warmth that I knew that I wasn't going to just come and interview him and film with him and leave, that this was, and this is also part of Donkeysaddle's ethic and how we work. We believe in long-term relationships. We don't do what we call hit and run storytelling. When we're partnering with a family or with a young person to tell their story, that's a long-term commitment that goes on through years and, you know, and even decades. So it was very clear that we would stay in touch with Mohamad, that we would try to support him getting the medical care that he needed, as well as amplifying his story. And so that's how we met, that's how we stayed connected, and that's what led into the making of this film, is staying connected to Mohamad all those years, and then helping get him and his mom out of Gaza to Egypt when it was so clear that he was not able to get the follow-up care he needed for his leg. And then Fadi and I going to Egypt to support Mohamad through the surgery that he was having, leading to then filming that whole process, which led then to making this film.
Thanks so much, Jen. That's really, really special to hear about, you know, what a long-term relationship and connection this has been. Jen talked about this a little bit, but my next question is for Fadi, which is about, you know, how Mohamad struggled to receive medical care outside of Gaza. Fadi, could you tell us about why it is so difficult for Palestinians to receive care outside of Gaza, and why it was important for Mohamad to travel to receive the care that he needed?
Sure. Thank you so much, Miranda, and thanks for everyone, for more than 100 participants who are attending our film screening for today. And again and again and again, congratulations for our hero today, Mohamad, for like finishing his Tawji exams. I know that he was really in a very difficult and hard, tough time. It's not easy. I mean, at the personal level, as one of also like for the people who were at the beginning of the genocide in Gaza, for like a month and a half. It wasn't easy for a lot, especially for Mohamad, as he's someone who was in very special needs regarding to, as you may, I'm sure all of you know that he's amputated. So like being displaced from a place to place, as he mentioned in the film, from Jabalia to Deir Balah and then to Khanis and then to Rafah and like then to go back with having amputated leg. It's not the easy job. So I'm so happy that Mohamad did reach this point now, and he's like a superstar in our film for today. I know it's not the best film that to show, but at least we are showing Mohamad's case as a model of a lot of kids in Gaza who are suffering of the what I would call it like medical siege. Israel, you may know that before even like this current genocide, the Israeli occupation is controlling every single thing to be entered to Gaza. Thousands of items that it's not allowed to be entered into Gaza, including sometimes like USB flash or like under justification that it's a dual usage, that you can use it in militant. It's ridiculous to the degree that one time that Israel prevented Palestine from Gaza to imported condoms, for example. They do that. They used to do that, stuff like that. I don't know how much the condoms were bothering the state of Israel at the state of occupation. But this is the job of the occupation, actually, to make your life miserable by time. The life of who? Of the people on the ground. Mohamad is one of the people who are on the ground. He was in high need of like a special treatment, and just for your information, also Gaza medical capacity is not the best. I mean, this field is under siege for like more than a decade, like a decade and a half, and the majority of the doctors are not allowed to travel outside of Gaza and like get like medical conference exchange, stuff like this. In addition to a lot of medical delegation are not allowed to enter Gaza for like this is the kind of disease that is imposed against Gaza. So the medical capacity in Gaza is not developed regarding the Israeli occupation medical siege. I love to use this concept always because it's a part of the general siege that Israel occupation is using. And in addition to that, they are not always, I mean, usually they prevent the patients to travel out of Gaza to get the treatment. As you may watch in the film, Mohammed was like in 2019 he was like prevented, like he was denied. This is the perfect word to use. He was denied to travel outside of Gaza to get the treatment until like many denied time until he got approval. The also, Muhammad has to get a special nutrition. He has to get protein all the time, and also regarding to the siege, to the tough financial situation, DSP through our program, the GDP, is we're supporting Muhammad every week by providing him food, providing him proteins to as a way to heal. Um, uh, b- Also, as like as Muhammad did lose his leg, he needs to be in a proper environment. Like I don't know how to say that in English, but like we rehabilitate, for example, his toilet, for example, to be like I don't know what that's the word in English. That's we did some change in his toilet, for example, to be able to be used for Muhammad. I mean, as a sorry, as organization, and Muhammad himself was suffering for like 7 years until the moment that Muhammad used to send me um, text message voice notes from under the bombing while he was in Gaza, and which it was like a part of the treatment, to be honest. Like we found ourselves all the time have to support Muhammad mentally, like because we wanted him to survive. So at least we have to give him the hope that, oh, you are gonna make it. Don't worry, like we're supporting you, we are behind you, we're not gonna leave you. We will do our best. We'll be moving mountains for you, Muhammad. Don't worry, we will. And we did it. We did it, and we moved him to Egypt, and a new chapter of medicine. Muhammad got it, as you watch in the film. But thousands of kids are in Gaza now. They cannot get the same chance that Muhammad has got. I mean, Muhammad was lucky. I mean, it's not the good word to use. Like that sort of he's more lucky than thousands of kids who are not able to get treatment, and they are in starvation, and they cannot get food, they cannot get medicine, they cannot get safety, and they are displacing from a place to place to place to place, and this trip never be ended. Like it's a cycle. Like people are all the time saying it as to where to go. I hope that I answered this question, Miranda.
Yeah, thanks so much, Fadi, for all that context. I think it is it can be difficult to understand sort of the permit regime or the medical siege, like you said, because it really is such a unique example in the world. It's the only place in the world that operates like this. So we really appreciate you giving that context and telling more about the support that you've helped with for Mohammed. Our next question is for Mohammed Malik. Can you tell us what it was like to grow up in Gaza before your injury, or even after you were injured? Just what it was like to be a kid.
محمد السؤال إلك. بسألوك شو تجربتك إنك إنسان انخلقت في غزة وترعرعت فيها ونشأت فيها. خبرنا عن طفولتك فيها وشو الذكريات اللي بتحب تتذكرها.
حلوة غزة كانت قبل الحرب. ما عشناش طفولة، بس يعني على الأقل كنا عايشين حياة. كان في أهل، كان في بيت، كان في أمان، كان في جمع، كانت أختي ميسة، كان محمد نافع. لقى في يعني الواحد يحس بالأمان، يعني بالفرحة
خليني أكمل. So Muhammad is saying that Gaza used to be so beautiful before the war started. Otherwise, they didn't, as a children, they didn't live their childhood as opposed to like the other children, but at least Muhammad, used to have a home, a safety, a place with whole his family, his sister Maysa, his friends that he lost in Gaza, and everyone else who were killed, and he's missing them there. كمل يا محمد.
ما عشت طفولتي كويس في غزة. اتصابت عمري 11 سنة ونص 12، ما لحقت الطفولة وما جربت ألعب كورة. يعني أكون بعلمك، يعني ما بتخيل نفسي كيف، يعني لو كانت رجل موجودة كيف يعني ألعب كورة ولا كيف هجري. ما عشت الطفولة، بس كنت مبسوط إنه في حوالي أحباب، في حوالي أهل. اليوم لا أحباب ولا أهل يعني.
سلامة الموجودين. So Muhammad is saying that he didn't actually live his childhood because of his injury. As we all know that he got injured at a young age. So he's not sure, or he doesn't know the feeling of playing football or running as the other children. But at least what he's saying that he used to have his family and beloved ones that now they are killed. But nowadays, far away from all his favorite places in Gaza, his home, his family, etc. Otherwise, he's still missing them and echoed to his memories with them. بدك تضيف شيء محمد؟
في فترة امتحانات زوجية، يعني في الفترة هذه، في فترة أنا بامتحن، التفكير بدأ يعني من التعب في الامتحانات، وتصير تفكر كثير. فصرت أفكر أقول يعني تفكير غريب، يعني أقول يعني ما ضلش شيء لي، يعني لا نافع ولا أختي ولا أهل ولا بيت. يعني أنا بقول ليش عايش؟ طيب هذا من التعب طبعا. بقول طب ليش أنا عايش؟ يعني ليش ما استشهدتش؟ ليش ما متش تريحت؟ خلاص، فالحياة يعني بطلت تسوى شيء في عينينا. يعني تيجي ما تجيش، يعني الواحد يعمل اللي عليه، بس احنا الحياة بطلت في عينينا. احنا خسرنا كل شيء. الواحد مش قادر يحكي ولا يوصف الشعور اللي هو فيه، بس الحمد لله.
الحمد لله. So Muhammad is saying that during his time while he was studying for توجيه exams, and as you all know that sometimes you have depression because of, memorizing and studying and etc. So he used to have a lot these moments during his studying for توجيه. It's like why he's doing so while there others are not still alive, such as his sister, his friend. Just remembering his home and just imagining that if he would take the exams and studying in his home in Gaza Strip rather than Egypt, and he was thinking sometimes that, and also wondering why he's still alive, why not to be dead like others and not to suffer, and being suffering from all he went through and during this war. Something else, by the way, before jumping up to Muhammad, that he mentioned at the beginning, that one of the challenges that he faced during these days while studying for توجيهي is that there is a surgery was supposed to take place 2 weeks before the starting of the exams. However, Muhammad is strong. He insisted to reschedule the surgery after the توجيه exams finishes, so he can take the exams and not to skip the surgery. محمد.
اليوم حل آخر سؤال في الامتحان. ف يعني قاعد بحل، خلص مبسوط اني بدي اخلص، لاني بقول لقيتها بطلع بلاقي محمد نافع بستناني على الباب وقول لي كيف كان الامتحان. يعني انا مجرد ما اتذكر، يعني قاعد في اخر سؤال بحل فيه مبسوط، اجى على بالي ما انا نسيت انه راح خلاص. بحل في اخر سؤال بقول هلقيت نافعه بستناني على الباب، وامي هلقيت في الدار هي وميسة قاعدين بيستنوا ايش صار وايش صار. طلعت من الامتحان أدركت إنه مش موجود. ما ما استحملتش وقعدت أعيط شوي.
الله يرحمه الله يرحمه. As you can see, Mohammed remembered today at the last question in his exam. He just remembered his friend Mohammed Nafi, and he was imagining that Mohammed and his sister Maisa is outside the exam room, waiting for him to go out from the room and telling about the exam. And during the exam, while he's doing this question, his tears dropped while he remembered them. And after he finished the exam and went out from the exam room, he didn't find any one of them. So it was like a harsh moment for him while remembering everyone that he loved and were killed. الله يرحمهم محمد. بدك تضيف إشي تاني؟
لا تمام.
تمام.
Thanks, Malik, and thanks, Mohammed. Mohammed, I have just one more question for you, and then we'll kind of open it up for some audience questions. You mentioned in the film that you want to study nursing. Can you tell us why you want to study nursing and what you plan to do as a nurse?
آخر سؤال يا محمد إلك، مناش متكلة عليك.
لا
السؤال إنه بآخر الفيلم أنت حكيت بدك تدرس تمريض، تكون
مريض.
ممرض. أيوة. أول إشي ليش بدك تدرسه وشو اللي شو الدافع اللي خلاك تختار هذا التخصص؟
بنزوح على دير البلح ما كان يعني بحكي ايش هذا، ما كان في حمام عندنا في المدرسة، فكنت أروح على مستشفى شهداء الأقصى. فكنت أشوف الدكاترة أو يزعق علي تعال امسك تعالها، فصارت معي خبرة من كثر ما يعني ظلتني في المستشفى. يوم من الأيام يعني قاعد في الاستقبال ما كانش شيء أعمله، يعني كنت أضلني قاعد في المستشفى. فالدكتور قال لي تعال ساعدني وتعال امسك ايديه، إجا مريض يعني قاعد بيصرخ فساعدته، فحبيت المهنة.
خليني
تمام كمل.
أقدر. So the main reason why Mohammed chose this major to be a nurse in the future, inshallah, it was like it's even difficult for me to translate it. However, Mohammed is saying that during the displacement in Deir al-Balah, and because of, as you know, all the displacement centers where there is no any sanitation and privacy, etc. So he had to go to Shahada al-Aqsa hospital to use toilets and for availability for sanitation. And during the time while he's doing so, he used to see doctors and nurses that they're helping casualties, injured, and etc. And one of the days that he was waiting for his turn to enter, by a chance, a doctor just called him to come and help him. Like with a man. So from that moment, he just liked this job and he wished for himself to be the same in the future. كمل يا محمد.
بعدين يعني صار لي 7 سنين 6 سنين متصاب من مش قلال العمليات اللي عملتها، 100,000 عملية عملت، فصارت معي الخبرة. بعدين يعني الهدف إن أصبح تمريض. بكرة واحد يقول لي أنا بتوجع، أقول له أعطوه مسكن، لا أنا حاسس في المرضى وجربت كل شعور ممكن يحسوا بيه، يعني ذوقت جميع أنواع الألم. فمرات خلص صارت معي الخبرة، صارت معي أدق التفاصيل. يعني أتخيل إنها مش هتكون يعني صعبة علي، هتكون سهلة. ترجم.
بالضبط، خذ كمان استراحة. So what Mohammed also saying that why he's choosing to go for nursing is also because, as you all know, that he had a lot of surgeries. So according to his words, that he became experienced with everything regarding nursing and medicines and medication, etc. Also because he was saying that in the future, if anyone around him, families, friends, whatever, just feeling in pain or in suffer, he won't just recommend a medication or a medicine, but no, he would feel their suffering and pain, and he would suggest something better to improve their health. Go ahead, Mohammed. كمل.
إيه، بس يعني تمريض يعني ما كانت فكرة بعيدة عنه. بعدين يعني زي ما بتشوفي اللي بيصير اليوم في غزة، كمية الأطباء في النقص عندهم، اللي بموت واللي اللي بيصير أسير. هم محتاجين لهذا المهنة، هم محتاجين يعني الهدف الوحيد هو غزة، معالجة المرضى، والهدف الوحيد هو مساعدتهم. ما في هدف بعد هيك، لأنهم شافوا الويل وشافوا أسوأ أنواع العذاب.
ما شاء الله.
فنحن نقدم لهم شيء بسيط، والتعب كله بزول ولكن النتيجة بتضل.
إن شاء الله يا محمد. One last thing Muhammad is saying is, as all you know, that the health workers are now targeted in Gaza, doctors, paramedics, nurses, and etc. Otherwise being killed or detained, tortured, whatever. So Muhammad's perspective is that nowadays Gaza is in much need of medical staff, including nurses. And he's wishing to study this major to help Gaza in some way, how, and he finds himself in this position. So he says Gaza is his inspiration to study nursing. بدك تحكي شي محمد؟
لا تمام.
تمام؟ ستيو مرندا. شكرا يا محمد.
Thanks, Malik, and shukran, Mohammed. So I think that was possibly the perfect note to end our panel with. Now I think we're going to take a couple of minutes just to talk about a few actions we can do together while we're on this call. I appreciate everyone's patience. I know we've run over the hour. I think we're going to take a couple moments to do some actions together. And then if you have any questions for Mohammed, Fadi, or Jen, you can put those in the chat. And after a couple of minutes, we'll be able to answer a few of them. I do ask that you focus your questions on Mohamad's life, his situation, Donkeysaddle Projects work, the situation of child amputees in Gaza, to stay focused to the content of the film. So first thing we'd like to share is a feedback form about what you thought about the film and what you thought about this event. I'll also say that we'll share a few links in the chat, and you're welcome to take these actions now. You will also receive the links in a follow-up email that will go out this week that will also have a recording of this discussion. So if you'd rather do it later, that's also fine. Please fill out the feedback form.
And sorry, can I just say one note?
Yes, please.
So it does ask for feedback, but also even more important than that, it asks for your ideas on how we can use this film as a deeper tool of organizing and engagement, including whether you might be willing to host like a small house gathering with the film, or if you have ideas or contacts. So it's feedback, but it's also inviting your engagement with us using the film as a tool. So I really hope that folks will take 2 or 3 minutes to fill it out so that we can follow up with you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jen. I know a couple of people in the chat asked, how they could have a screening of this film hosted in their own communities. So I think if that's something you're interested in, definitely make sure you fill out the form so we can all be in contact and support that process. The next link that we'll share in the chat is a donation link to Donkeysaddle Projects and their specific work supporting families in Gaza. And families from Gaza, like Mohammed and his family. These donations are split between ongoing financial support for families from Gaza, including Mohammed and his family, other Palestinians from Gaza who have fled to Egypt, and towards deepening the impact of this film, Severed. So I would very much like to welcome all of you to make a donation towards supporting this really important work. And Catherine just shared that link in the chat, so everybody should have that link. And the last link that I'll share is something I'm sure many of you in the US are familiar with. I do apologize to any folks not in the US. This action is US specific. There's a really important bill in Congress right now called the Block the Bombs Act, which would prevent the US from transferring certain weapons to Israel that are used to attack Palestinians. So if you haven't already, please take a moment just to send an email to your member of Congress asking them to co-sponsor this bill. This is a long-term organizing vehicle, so this bill will continue to be active in Congress throughout this congressional session until January 2027. But it's really urgent, obviously, that we, work and organize to stop the transfer of these weapons as soon as possible, because that will only act to save as many Palestinian lives as possible. So I'm going to give folks just a minute to catch up on those links, and fill out anything you are feeling called to fill out today. And then also, if you have any questions for Jen, Fadi, or Mohamad, you can also pop those in the chat. And after a moment, we'll be able to answer a couple of those questions together. So as folks think about if they have any questions, Jen, would you maybe be able to tell us what else Donkeysaddle Projects is up to these days? And if you have any new projects in the works, or are you mostly focused on getting the word out about Severed?
Hold on a second, I'm just dropping my email address.
Yeah, sorry, surprise question.
Right, no, that's great. No, I love that question. So just, I'm letting folks, I'm getting in the chat, I'm seeing folks saying that they want to share the film. So please fill out the form that will allow us to be in touch with you. I also dropped my email address where you could reach out to me about that. Miranda, to answer your question, so Donkeysaddle, as an organization, our mission is in the fight against state violence in all of its manifestations. And we use this integrated model of art and storytelling combined with political education and with direct activism and advocacy as the theory of as our theory of change, as of how we're combating state violence. And Palestine is one of our areas of deepest and longest engagement, but we also do a lot of work here in the U.S. Against the death penalty and other manifestations of the criminal justice system, which, as we all know, has nothing to do with justice. We're working on developing a documentary theater piece that's also an abolition workshop and an art installation with an incredible activist named Alejandra Pablos, who spent over 2 years in ICE detention and has been fighting her own deportation for over 10 years. So we're in development of that project with Ale, telling her story, again, to use it as a tool of, not just education, but also of organizing. Yeah, and I think, Fadi was mentioning the on the ground work that we're doing, supporting families, Mohamad's family, but also other families we've been connected to, like similar to Mohamad. So that's a huge piece of our work is, again, we don't do hit and run storytelling. So all of the folks who have been a part of our projects in the past were in these long-term relationships with all, almost all of them, continuing to try to see how we can address their needs. So yeah, we have that's just a small sampling of what we've got going on. I would love if folks wanted to follow our work. That's also one of the questions in the form, but also just going to donkeysaddle.org. We would love to stay in touch with you. And of course, wanting to make sure that this film, that Severed, and that Mohamad's story can have the deepest impact that it can possibly have, because creating the content is only like 40% of the work. The other 60% of the work,
Absolutely.
helping the content, helping, like I say, helping the film grow legs so it can walk in the world and do its work. And we depend on partnerships with all of you in order to do that.
Thanks so much, Jen. I think we don't have too much in the way of questions in the chat, so I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all for being patient with the time. I know we ran a little bit longer than expected. Everyone at DCIP is so grateful for Donkeysaddle Projects, for Jen and Fadi, and for Mohamad for this beautiful film that's now out in the world, growing its legs. You will all get an email from me by the end of this week with the recording of the discussion and all the links that we talked about and ways to stay connected with Donkeysaddle and how to show this film in your community and everything along those lines. So if you'd like to take a moment, one more round of applause for Mohamad for finishing his Tawjihi exams today. Mohamad, we are so proud of you. And I would just like to thank all of you for taking a little bit more than an hour out of your day today to watch this film and spend some time together, celebrate Mohamad's accomplishments, and think about ways we can work together to make the world a little bit better and more just. Thank you all for joining us today.
محمد احنا خلصنا واخر اشي بتمنوا لك النجاح وان شاء الله العلامات العالية بتفرحنا. نضل على تواصل نعرف النتيجة. شكرا كتير شكرا. وخليك قوي وبدنا الابتسامة تضلها على وجهك وان شاء الله كمان 4 سنين بنشوفك نيرس.
ان شاء الله ان شاء الله. العلاج بالدولار ها.